It's sticking up all kind of funny ways. So I don't like it so much. Also, too much eyeliner. You look like a raccoon. But I love you. I've got that off my chest. I'm less insecure standing in front of you. I guess when Jeff asked me to talk here today, I thought about, what is it, that I can talk about. And, you guys have been paying a lot of attention. You are in the know in terms of how we are in this kind of fantastic place in terms of being able to kind of be the forerunners of something. I'm old enough to say that at one point, in my life when I was fairly young, I thought, my God, has everything been discovered? Has everything been found out? Is there no great beyond? I used to watch Star Trek growing up. I wanted to go with no man, no woman had never gone before. So, and it felt like for a time that there was just sort of no place to go to do that thing, to be, I went on the spot, but anyway, whatever. Maybe his girlfriend, but the point is that I realize now with this thing, with this stuff that we can do online, we are the early ones in. We're the ones, lots of people making mistakes with it, and a lot of people doing good things with it, and finding a betterment of their own life through it. But we're sort of early in trying to figure all this stuff out, and it's exciting to be in something that is really where no generation has ever gone before. That's where we are. And that's cool. And what I would say to you, because in the course of the last year since I've spoken to you, I've seen this real uptick. People sort of trying to use social media, specifically Twitter, as a way of kind of selling themselves. There's a real, everybody's now getting a picture about how powerful it can be, and dangerous as well, but how powerful it can be. Being in the world for more than 30 years, trying to be in the world of giving people information that might give people knowledge, that might give them as a result power. Having been for more than 30 years in that kind of world, I can tell you that the truth is always the first victim. It is more than anything else the thing that people fight over and try to control because everything else comes from that. So what I'm starting to see with Twitter is people wanting to use it. They want to use it to sell things, to sell themselves, to kind of sort of capture this and create the truth that they want for whatever motivations they have. Usually it's driven by money. And what I really hope is that this thing that I've seen as a deep part of the character of Twitter and Facebook, deep in Twitter and Facebook, is this wish to have meaning, to do good, to be a part of something that brings meaning to your own life because you've done something to help somebody else. It really is, I think, fundamentally a human wish. We want our lives to matter. We want to matter. And the way to matter is to matter in some way that has been generous to other people. And, it's the thing, I'm old enough to tell you that, it's the thing that, when you're on your last days or you're already done and people are talking about, and sure they'll talk about, your success as a business, or your great father or mother, or your good sister or brother, or good, friend. But in the end, it really is the legacy, is that you did something with your life that mattered to others. That is the thing. That is the thing. You will be gladder at the end of your days, and with your family, the people who love you, will be so grateful to hold on to you as they know me. It is the thing that I hope will stay present in how we use this new frontier. There's so much you don't need me to tell you. that the world needs a lot of love, and in all the things that brings them, and we see it constantly. I always feel with Twitter this, and with Facebook, and as a newswoman, it's that I feel this pressure. I want to tell people what they need to know, because I know from these years being a reporter that if I tell people what they need to know about the world, that they will care, and that some people will care a lot, and that those people might actually have a voice in changing human suffering. It's been the one thing that has been constant in all the sufferings and disasters and difficulties and struggles and disease and genocide and all those things that I've seen as a reporter. The one constant has always been this beautiful outrage that I'm seeing in you, the American people, big-hearted American people that wants to do more, wants to step up, wants to at least care, wants their elected officials to do something, wants to donate to Haiti, wants to constantly pushing. Why? Because we all want to be, I think we can have forces for good. And even if we don't have the money to contribute, at least we are outraged and we talk about it and care. And I think that this power is huge when it connects with others, and we become this monolith of voices that, not monolith because it sounds like we're all saying the same thing, this wave of voices that, soothes the fire that's raging on virtually every shore. And I think that this is so powerful. It is never to be underestimated. And it is, I think, the deep, I think in it is the deepest, most beautiful possibilities of social media. And I really hope that as we continue in this adventure towards this unknowing future in this world that we're now able to kind of experience. It's kind of almost like better than being Star Trek. I mean, you don't know what's going to happen. There are no tribbles and maybe and Klingons, but but there is a kind of a sense of not seeing the edge, of this universe and wondering what it will be. And I would just simply encourage anyone who can listen to me here in this room or through this universe that we're now in, to remember the good that it's capable of, the good that it will do, the good that you're capable of doing, and as a result, the force of good that you will be. And as a result of that, the meaning you'll have in your lives, and that you will be at the end of your days as someone who knows you've done something in some service to other human beings, whether in this way or whatever way, whether it comes at you and you're inspired by something you read, something you do. I think that it may be a way for us to connect, with other people who think like this. They may not be in your family, they may not be even among the people you go out and have beers with, but maybe in this way we can connect with each other all over the world, wherever you are, people who want to contribute to our human family. So that's what I want to say, and I also want to, rather than have somebody ask me questions, I want you to ask me questions. I want to know what I can say that might be of some use to you. So I wonder if someone might shout something at me, and there is no stupid question. Yep.
Well, I'd love to know what you know now that you didn't know at the beginning of your career. What's the most important factor that's just stuck with you?
What is the thing that I know now that I did not know at the beginning of my career? That everything, anything and everything is not only possible, it's probable.
people think, especially when you're young, you think things are not going to happen. How can that possibly be? Things feel impossible. What I've learned is if you have pure goals and a constant effort, a determination to not give up. If your motivations are pure and you don't give up, all the things that seem impossible become probable. And I found this empirically in my own experience and in what I see as a reporter. Yeah?
What do you want your kids to know? What do you tell your kids about life?
What do I tell my kids about life? There's a lot. That's a long, you don't have that kind of time. But I would say, but I like the question. I appreciate the motivation question. I mean, I think I would say that my kids would roll their eyes if they heard me say this now because I say it so much. But what I mostly tell them is that they are important. Not because they're my children, but because they're human. That you, by virtue of having been born, are important. You have value. That no one person has more value than another. I don't care how much you make, what office you have, what kind of influence you have, whether people bow at your feet because you're the king of whatever. The reality is, the truth is that no one person has more value than the other. And when we finally come to understand this connection that we have to each other and the intrinsic value of every person, then we're going to stop doing the things that are wrong. Hating, fighting, doing all those things that kind of bring us as a human family down. So my message to my children is always that you have a role to play, you have a part to play in loving our human family, because we are evolving. People today, especially with the difficulties that we face in these times, we're so burdened. 9/11, the wars, and every, idiot congressman, it's all just pushes down. It pushes us down. And we think, the thing about it is that we feel down, we think, times are really bad, and this is, the war is we're all, the economy, who doesn't know somebody hurt, right? But here's the truth. With all of that embraced and understood as being true, nevertheless, if you step back and you look at the scope of human history, if you are a student of history, you have to accept, you have to acknowledge that humankind is evolving into a more compassionate species. And now you're saying to me, oh, you're an idiot, what are you talking about? Have you seen this? But no, it's true. I'll tell you why. If you look back and you understand that once war crimes, genocide, rape was a fact of war, not a crime against humanity, something the International Criminal Court can come after and get you, Mladic and all those guys, then you understand that something has changed. If you think about it, there was a time when on the streets of Lower Manhattan, children, little kids, were begging. People would walk right by them, or maybe give them something, but that was acceptable. Or they worked in our factories. Little kids working in our factories. That was acceptable. Now it's child abuse. There once was a time, in fact, the last time that officially we knew that a black person was lynched in America was in the late 1970s. When you look at the history of racism in this country, and all of a sudden, no matter what your politics, whether you love them or you hate them, the fact that we could even elect a black man as president, it tells us we have changed. We are seeing the as ourselves. We are becoming more compassionate. We're standing up against sexism, racism, phobism, whatever that is when you're afraid of gay people. That whole idea of, homophobia. Sorry, I'm in the zone, okay? I'm in the zone. That when you realize all this is happening, this big change is happening, you have to understand that every person, all along the way, that our ancestors, and there have been generations of people who stepped up, who did the right thing against what was against our human family. I mean, there were people during the Holocaust who not only risked their own lives to save Jews, they risked their children's lives. They risked their children's lives to do what is right by our human family. So the question then becomes, who are we? What are we going to do? And so now you see why my kids roll their eyes. Because I go on and on. I would just simply say that I think there's a lot to hope for when you look at our species and what we can accomplish and who we will become, what we will become. Yes. No, somebody behind you. You don't know, it's fine, yes.
What do you hope people get from watching and reading your tweets and you creating your community? What do you hope people get from you? I'm about putting it out there in terms of, well, she's asked me, what do you hope people will gain from your tweets? You know what? People have asked me, why would you even think about being in social media? Why? But I was early in, and I was early in not because of any particular reason, except that I'm a reporter, and I understand that my motivation to becoming a reporter was never to be on television. It was very uncomfortable at first. I was like the guy from broadcast news when I first started. It was painful. I still struggle with the whole teleprompter reading thing. I mean, it's not easy. But what I love is to gather important information and send it out to people in a way that's useful. I want to be forced for good. And I know knowledge is power. The more knowledge you have, according to studies, you live longer, you make better choices, and it's about loving you. So I want to then give, that has been my motivation all of these years, to be willing to, put myself out there in live television, which is so vulnerable and so, you're constantly making stupid mistakes or doing something, whatever, but putting yourself out there so that you can have the possibility of helping people. So that's what I'm trying to do with Twitter. And there are a lot of stories that I fight. You may notice that I do a lot of stories that are difficult to get on television. And even though I'm able to succeed where maybe others have not always been able to succeed in doing certain stories, I still can't get all of them on. So a lot of times I'll tweet stories that I think people should be paying attention to. Did you know that the same man, Omar al-Bashir, I've been thinking about how to, okay, the music's starting. Okay, I thought I probably should stop. No, I can go on. Okay, really fast, 2 seconds? It's important. Thank you. Omar al-Bashir, the man who's accused of war crimes in Darfur. He's the guy that the International Criminal Court says should be tried for genocide, crimes against humanity. He's the president of Sudan. He's also been accused of crimes against humanity in the southern part of Sudan. So Darfur is in Sudan. So now it's starting again. It's not called Darfur. It's another part of Sudan. But now they're villages of African tribes people who happen to be living on lands where there's a lot of oil. And there's a dispute because the southern part of Sudan wants to break away from the north. So these tribes are getting hammered right now. So it's hard to get these stories before you. But already the President of the United States, just a few days ago, said it looks like that there's an ethnic motivation for what we're seeing here. Not only political motivation, but an ethnic motivation for people being essentially slaughtered or forced to go on the run by the tens of thousands, right? So I think people need to know this stuff. So my effort in Twitter is not only to try to be a force for good in terms of giving people information, but it's trying to give you what, it's hard for you to find out about, because it's expensive, it's difficult, it's hard for a lot of reasons that I don't have time to tell you. But but I won't give up. And so I find any option, any ability that I can to give you this kind of information, as hard of it as this obviously was to hear, I think it's my job. I think that's my life's purpose, to be honest with you, in terms of my mission. And so I'm really glad to speak to you, and I know you have other people to hear from, and I hope I've been somehow useful to you. And I wish you every luck, and I encourage you to be forceful.